Welcome to New Hampshire's Business. I'm Fred Coker. The housing shortage and cost dilemma in New Hampshire is front and center at the moment in the business community, in the New Hampshire legislature, and with those trying to find affordable housing, especially rank and file workforce. Rental housing is under a microscope in the legislature, which my guest will explain. But first, here is a number for rental housing discrimination as we entered the pandemic. Over 800 discrimination cases in 5 years between 2017 and 21. No final number yet for 22. Most common complaints, people with disabilities. With me to explain two housing proposals in the New Hampshire legislature, especially a housing voucher bill, is Lindsay Lincoln, who is co-director, no, she's attorney these days for the Fair Housing Project at New Hampshire Legal Assistant, which is New Hampshire's nonprofit law firm. Welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you for having me.
What are you seeing right now for housing discrimination in your office, just briefly?
Sure. So New Hampshire Legal Assistance accepts all types of discrimination complaints under the fair housing laws at both the state and federal level. But as you noted, the bulk of our cases, about 2/3 of those, are disability discrimination cases.
Yeah, and you really, low income and elderly are your target audiences, right?
The clients we serve are low income and older adults, yes.
Here's one of the bills in the legislature that you're supporting. And then let's go to the graphic. House Bill 469, Housing Vouchers, expands current law to include housing choice vouchers, prohibits discrimination against tenants with vouchers, makes it illegal for landlords to refuse housing vouchers. How are you describing the need for these vouchers to the legislators?
Sure. So I think it's really important, as you noted, to consider the bill in the context of the current rental market. You know, in 2022, we had a 0.5% vacancy rate. A healthy market is about 5%. Right. And so it's really tough out there already. And then when you compound that for voucher holders, people who have Section 8 vouchers or housing choice vouchers as they're known, and landlords currently can simply refuse to rent to them knowing nothing more than that they have a voucher. Without these vouchers, tenants aren't able to afford their rent, and there are thousands of households in the state that have vouchers. Hundreds every year lose those vouchers because they're not able to place them in an apartment. And so that's a real issue. My clients are constantly telling me stories about calling up landlords who simply say, no Section 8, no Section 8. And that's a real barrier when you're not otherwise able to afford housing.
Has there been a vote on the bill in the Judiciary Committee?
The House Judiciary Committee has voted on the bill. It came out of that committee without recommendation because the votes were tied. But the full House will vote on it on Thursday.
Here's a bill you're opposing. Let's go to the graphic. House Bill 117. Tenant termination eviction, expiration of a lease or tenancy of 6 months or longer. Landlord can evict after a 30-day written notice. No requirement to disclose cause for determination. What are you telling legislators about this bill?
So I think that bottom point is really the critical problem with this bill, that landlords don't have to have another reason beyond the fact that the lease has expired. And a bit of background for those who aren't familiar with the New Hampshire eviction laws. I think that's important. Currently, the law requires that a landlord have what's called good cause for an eviction. So that can be things like the tenant hasn't been paying their rent or they've substantially damaged the property. It can also be things that are unrelated to tenant fault. So the landlord wanting to substantially renovate the property or remove the property from the rental market. What this bill is essentially circumvent those protections for tenants. And really, I think it's important for folks to know that it creates a situation where a tenant could be subject to eviction every 6 months when they have done nothing wrong, and when the landlord has no other reason to evict them than simply the lease is expired.
There's another bill you're supporting, Senate Bill 145. I'll just make a comment because you're not involved in it, but you support it. It's the Housing Champion Bill, which gives municipalities grants for housing and infrastructure, and that's in the legislature at the moment. Now, here's contact information. I'm going to give contact information, put it up on the screen for anybody that needs to talk to New Hampshire Legal Assistance, especially the elderly and low income. And 117 North State Street in Concord, and there's the phone number. And give them a call if you need it. Thanks to Lindsay Lincoln, attorney with New Hampshire Legal Assistance. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Fred.
And if you missed part of this briefing, you can go to WMUR.com where it will be posted all this week.